Well, that was insane. Hey, everybody, welcome into the Basketball Bulletin. My God, double overtime. Spurs now steal home court. Victor Wembanyama goes absolutely berserk. And for the first time, and I don't know how long, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they look very mortal right now. What an amazing game. The best game of the playoffs so far. An absolutely insane game. I can't wait to see how this series is going to play out. I don't think the Thunder are done, but there should be a little bit of concern now mixed in OKC. Because I'll tell you what, that wasn't just Victor Wembanyama, superstar player, unstoppable force, all that. That was Victor Wembanyama pissed off. That was Victor Wembanyama trying to prove a point that SGA is not the MVP. That's what we just saw. We just saw Wemby trying to prove the point that SGA is not the MVP. And you know what? It was kind of hard to walk out. If you had no frame of reference, you had no idea who SGA is, you had no idea who Wemby is, and you had no idea what basketball was all about. You just watched that game. You would walk off the floor. You'd walk away from that game. And you would say, what, you mean the white dude with the bald head? That's the MVP? No? Oh, that's Alex. Who's the MVP then? Who is it? SGA. Look, it's not that he was terrible. Just was not an MVP. 7 for 23 is pretty damn terrible. But 12 assists, 5 steals, 4 turnovers. SGA played 51 minutes, 24 and 12. But you don't walk away from that game saying, that's the dude. You come away from that game saying, that's the dude. Victor Wembanyama, that's the dude. 41 points, 24 rebounds, 3 blocks, 3 assists, unstoppable down the stretch. And it wasn't just that he was just bigger than everybody. Like, he hit insane shots. How about that logo 3 to tie it? And he just steps into it like he knew it was going in. There was no waver in his shot. There was no waver in the confidence at all. There was no, holy shit, this is a big moment type situation for Wemby. This was just I'm doing this because this is what I do. I'm knocking down this shot because this is what I do. This shot's going in because of course it's going in. That's what we saw out of Victor Wembanyama in this game tonight. And we saw the Thunder a little rattled. The championship confidence a little rattled. I mean, think about it. If you're OKC, you just did the stuff that you're supposed to do to win. You just did it. The Spurs turned the ball over 21 times. You're not supposed to turn the ball over 21 times to beat the Thunder. That's their secret sauce. That's how they win. They turn you over a bunch. They don't turn the ball over much, and they win. That's the key, right? They get way more shots than their opponent does because they don't turn the ball over, and their opponent turns the ball over a ton. 11 turnovers for Steph Castle. By the way, no De'Aaron Fox. No De'Aaron Fox. We find out what? I think maybe 15 minutes before lineups were due. No De'Aaron Fox for the Spurs tonight. And they still get the win. In double OT, they now take home court. But 11 turnovers for Steph Castle, 21 turnovers in the game for the Spurs. Now, it's a double overtime game, so there's 10 extra minutes of play. But still, 21 turnovers is a lot. The Thunder, 14 turnovers. Okay. That's the Thunder doing what the Thunder do, right? So how did they do it? How did the Thunder get exactly what the Spurs even shot 30% from 3 on 43 attempts? The Thunder got what they wanted. They got what they needed in order to win games. So what happened? The Spurs crushed them on the offensive glass. Crushed them. 82nd percentile offensive rebound percentage. OKC could not match that. Neither team shot particularly well. We look at points per 100 possessions. OKC shot terribly. That Spurs defense was a big problem. The Spurs shot a bit better than the Thunder did on the night, but ultimately San Antonio dominated on the glass, absolutely destroyed them, and that made up for the turnover discrepancy. Look at the turnover percentage for San Antonio. That's atrocious, and that should be the scary thing, because I think what is more replicable is San Antonio's edge on the glass versus the Spurs turning the ball over 21 times, especially once De'Aaron Fox comes back. Yeah, that's a big problem. And then factor in, again, what's sustainable, what's not. Alex Caruso shot 29% from three in the regular season, 29%. He was 8 of 14 tonight. The Spurs basically dared him to hit threes, and Caruso did. To his credit, he knocked him down, and he was awesome. This was the Alex Caruso game. Talked about all the time with the Lakers that every game you need a certain number of role players to step up and have an outlier above average performance. Alex Caruso is great. I sing his praises all the time, but this was an above average performance from Caruso. Caruso is so good at 6'5" defending bigs that he even got reps defending Wemby. And there were some plays where obviously that was just a giant mismatch and Wemby scored. And there were some plays where Caruso was able to cause problems, knock the ball away, do things like that. But they got an outlier Alex Caruso performance. Again, not a shot at Caruso. 8 of 14 shooting is an outlier performance for anybody. The Thunder got that, and they still got out-rebounded total 61-40 and lost the game. Chet Holmgren, 41 minutes played, 8 points, 2 for 7. Chet, where'd you go? Wasn't much of a factor out there, was he? Wasn't much of a factor. Jalen Williams, welcome back. 26 points, but 11 of 25 shooting. SGA, 7 of 23 shooting. Got to the free throw line. Got a great look late with his push off of Doom. Didn't get called for the offensive foul. Missed the shot. There were moments in this game where the Thunder had their bench in, and you went, okay, the Thunder's bench is doing Thunder bench things. Right, Jared McCain gets in there. He slithers to the rim and scores it. AJ Mitchell, who was just insane against the Lakers, now 4 points against the Spurs. But OKC, ultimately, when it came time to play the very best players in crunch time, the Spurs guys were better. How about Devin Vassell with that insane recovery block on Chet? It looked like Chet had a wide open dunk, and Devin Vassell comes running over. And that's the difference. And that's why when we look at these two teams and we talk about, well, why is the NBA cooked right now? Why is the rest of the league cooked? It's because of shit like that. Right now, you've got an NBA. You've got 28 teams right now looking around, looking at what we just saw here. And yes, 28. I'm including the teams still alive in the East. You think the Knicks are beating that? You think the Cavs are beating that? Hell no, they're not. So people are saying, like, just shows that this team, every team, 28 teams right now, fan bases are saying, we're screwed. How do we do that? How do we catch up to that? How do we possibly catch up to that? 28 teams right now, including the two that are still alive in the East, are looking at that game and saying, well, that was fun. What do we do now? That's not a, oh my God, Lakers blew it, or this team blew it, or Denver blew it. Every team, 28 teams right now are looking at this saying, well, we're done. My guy, Jason Temp, we were texting earlier, and he said, this is Warriors and Cavs in the mid-2010s. If you were a Warriors fan, if you were a Cavs fan, that was a great era. In general, that was a shitty era for basketball, at least based on what Adam Silver is trying to get. Yes, we got some great LeBron versus Steph duels, but Adam Silver has been pushing for parity. We've got 7 straight years where there's been a new champion every year. And now you got 28 teams looking at 2 teams that are above everybody else. I hope, as much as fun as that game was, I hope this doesn't lead to an era of going into each season knowing exactly what the outcome of the season will be. And that is whichever one of Spurs or OKC wins in the West Finals is the NBA champion. Because, by the way, in case it wasn't clear, this series is determining who is the NBA champion, right? I think we can all agree to that. Whoever wins this series is the NBA champion. The Knicks, look, I'll be rooting for the Eastern Conference team, but they're not going to have a shot. The Knicks, the Cavs, they can put up a fight, but let's be real. They're not topping what we just saw. And the difference that these teams have is they have every guy on their team on the floor can make a play on either side of the ball. Again, that block Devin Vassell had. Steph Castle slips to the rim and dunks over everybody. How many teams have a guy that can do that. They've got multiple guys that can do that. And the same's true for the Thunder. Again, I don't think this series is over. I think the Thunder bounce back and take game 2. And I hope we get a 7-game series. I hope we're blessed with a 7-game series between these two teams. When we look at around the NBA, 28 GMs right now are looking at their cap sheet, are looking at their rosters, and they're trying to figure it out. And look, the reality is nothing lasts forever. Everything changes. Nobody had the Spurs at this level coming into the season. They've been on the rise all year long, and now they're at this level right now. Nothing lasts forever. And before you know it, this will adjust. But right now, we just saw 2 NBA teams play a different, almost looked like a different game than what everybody else is playing. And that means everybody else in the NBA has to play catch up. Let me take a look at some of your super chats. By the way, everybody, if you haven't done so yet, please make sure you hit the subscribe button over here on the Basketball Bulletin. Appreciate all of you. iHeart has to play with force like prime Shaq. He's big enough to try it. He can't go 2 rebounds. JJ, that's how you guard SGA with rookies. I thought the Spurs did a nice job doubling SGA and then forcing somebody else to shoot and hit shots. And Alex Caruso did that. He knocked down shots. The Spurs did a nice job getting the ball out of SGA's hands. That said, the Thunder have a lot of guys that can make plays off of that. And the Spurs also have a lot of guys that are a lot better recovering. It's a lot easier to send 2 at SGA when Wemby's behind you, right? That makes things infinitely easier. Even if Wemby was involved in the possession, just the way he can wall off such a huge segment of the floor, it's much more difficult for the Thunder to attack that when the ball's getting taken out of SGA's hands. As far as I'll say this, if you're asking basically anybody to play like prime Shaq, that it's just a non-starter, right? I mean, there's one prime Shaq. Hell, Wemby is not prime Shaq. He can make that kind of an impact. Certainly we saw it tonight, right? But in terms of the force, the raw strength that Shaquille O'Neal played with, that was different. Now, Wemby does it just with overall size and length. He's got those arms that go everywhere, right? So there's some similarities there. But in general, if you're asking pretty much any big to play like a prime Shaq, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, especially if that's Isaiah Hartenstein. Now, I agree, you can't get crushed on the boards the way that they did. Isaiah Hartenstein, now he only played 12 minutes. The Thunder said, we're going to concede the boards a little bit. We're going to try to get more of our guards out there. We're going to be faster, and we're going to put pressure that way. And that worked well against the Lakers. The speed advantage that the Thunder had was certainly noticeable. Chet Holmgren plays 41 minutes. Isaiah Hartenstein plays 12. They replace him in the starting lineup. They go to Case and Wallace to try to bog up the guards of the Spurs a bit more. But not going to play like a prime Shaq. You're not going to get that. And by the way, the Spurs, we talk about 3-point volume, 43 attempts from 3. Again, double overtime game, 45 attempts from 3 for OKC. The Spurs missed a lot of open looks too. Devin Vassell, who's a really good 3-point shooter, 33% from deep. Julian Champagnie, another good 3-point shooter, 3 for 11 from deep. 1 of 7 for Dylan Harper, 1 of 6 for Steph. Like, you look at this, if you told OKC going into the game, okay, guys, Champagnie is going to shoot 3 for 11. Vassell's going to shoot 3 for 9 from deep. Castle's going to be 1 for 6, and Dylan Harper's going to be 1 for 7. Okay, the backcourt is going to be 2 for 13 from 3. De'Aaron Fox isn't going to play. You guys are going to have a 21-14 edge in turnovers. You tell OKC that going into a game, and what are the chances that OKC wins with that context? They'd be feeling great. They'd be feeling great about their situation. They'd feel like, what, 99%? They got to win. 4 of the 5 starters shoot well below their average from 3 for San Antonio, and they get crushed in the turnover battle while missing De'Aaron Fox. All of that says this should be a Thunder win. And yet Wemby was that good that it didn't matter, and the Spurs win in double OT and we get an all-time classic game. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, that's why I'm saying OKC has got to be right now in the locker room thinking, we may be in a little bit of trouble here. For the first, a little bit of doubt. They were 8-0 in the playoffs. Right now, a little bit of doubt is creeping into the Thunder's minds. Now, again, I don't think the series is over. I don't think San Antonio just runs away. Look, it was a double OT game. I hope we get a 7-game series. OKC is far from done, but there's got to be a little bit of doubt, right? A little bit of, okay. The lights of the playoffs are not too bright for the Spurs. That didn't happen. The Spurs did what the Spurs needed to do, got the win, and OKC really got what they needed and still didn't get the win. Still didn't get the win. I don't think OKC should be panicking right now, and I don't think they are. They're the reigning defending champs for a reason. They shouldn't be panicking because they're down 0-1 in the series. In a game that went to double overtime, if they came out and just got stomped by 30 and looked like they had no shot, that's a different story. No, it was a game that went to double OT. They had chances to win it. And frankly, I think when they're looking at this game and they're looking at the way this game played out, they're probably thinking we should have won it. We should have won it. That should be the concern, is that I think the Spurs have another level they can get to. Now, you could say the same for the Thunder. You could say, look, Jalen Williams and SGA aren't going to combine for 18 for 48 every single night. That's not going to happen all the time. These guys are going to shoot a bit better than that. SGA is not going to shoot 7 for 23 every night. Hell, SGA may shoot 15, 20 free throws next game. You don't know. I don't think the Thunder are right now going, oh, well, we're done. No, nor should they. I still think this is going to be a great series. And I'll tell you what, I think the Thunder are going to win game 2. I think Thunder are going to bounce back and they're going to win game 2. I think that's what happens here. But I think they now know they've got a real fight on their hands against a team that can really hurt them. And any thoughts they had about, well, what we saw in the regular season isn't going to happen in the playoffs, because in the playoffs, the Spurs are going to start, the age is going to show for San Antonio. They're going to start getting shaky. Double OT, and they were not shaky at all. They made plays, big moments. Dylan Harper took his eye off the ball and it bounced out of bounds, but it certainly didn't look like there was anybody on the Spurs that thought, I've never been in this moment before, and froze up. Didn't see that. Didn't see that from San Antonio at all. And it inspires a lot of confidence when you're rolling behind a guy that looks like Wemby. Only way OKC wins game 2 is if Wemby fouls out. Well, I mean, honestly, it wouldn't shock me. Like, I've had this thought before whenever my Lakers have played the Spurs. Basically, anytime you get Wemby off his feet, if you get him to bite on a pump fake, you cannot fade away. You cannot slide by and try to get the shot up. You have to go into his body and put the foul on him. That's the way to beat the Spurs, is to get Wemby off the floor. And just so happens that OKC has a guy who's really good at putting fouls on people. And that's SGA. So I do think that if the opportunity is there, let's put it this way. A foul on Wemby is more valuable than a made basket. That's just the reality. If you can get a foul on Wemby, that's more valuable than a made basket. If you have a chance, you get Wemby off his feet on a pump fake or something like that, and you have a chance to, you could slide past and scoop the layup or something like that. No. You go up on the jumper, you get landed on, you put the foul on him, get enough on him, you get him out of the game for a larger portion of time. That's, frankly, it's got to be part of the strategy, because you can see it. Okay, everybody plays so differently when Wemby is on the court versus off. Gonna have to do it. Pelinka's got to be shaking his head every time Caruso has a good playoff game, right? I would imagine his neck's probably getting pretty sore at this point from that. Yeah, look, every time Caruso's great, the Lakers hear it, and rightfully so. That made no sense. Even at the time, in the moment, everybody knew exactly what was going on. The Lakers made a decision with Caruso based on nothing more than money. There was no reason in terms of roster building. There was no reason in terms of flexibility. It's not like, well, we're going to let Caruso go, but that's going to allow us to go add another player or do something else. No, that was just money. That's it. Not cap space, not cap, but like money. When you are, what, last I looked, like the 7th most valuable sports franchise on the planet, you should never be making a decision. You should never be losing talent over money. And I know the luxury tax payment was going to boost Caruso's salary from the like $8 million it actually was to, in terms of luxury tax penalties, going to be up to like $30 million. But if there was any concern, he was one of the most valuable players in the NBA on that contract. Or that may be going a bit far, but he was an extremely positive value contract. Even if they decided we can't keep him, they could have flipped them for positive value on that deal. And they looked at that deal and went, no, that's too much. That's too much. He even offered to take less. And they went, no, that's too much. You go ahead and you take that deal. Whoops. Huge mistake. We talk all the time about what a big mistake the Russell Westbrook trade was, and it was one of the most devastating and damaging trades we've ever seen in NBA history. But the Alex Caruso decision was up there. Very damaging to the team, because not only did it take away an important player, a guy who clearly is still one of the best defensive players in the NBA, but it took away a guy who would have been on the contract the Lakers evaluated to be a negative value, actually was one of the best positive value deals in the NBA. And they could have gotten something significant for him in the future had they gotten to a point where they needed to move him. Instead, they chose to let him walk away for nothing over nothing else but money. So yes, every time he does something, the Lakers have got to be kicking themselves, and they should be, because everybody knew what that decision was right when it happened. Everybody knew what the reason for it was. There was no roster building reason for doing something like that. They did it purely for the pocketbook, and there's no excuse for that. OKC and Spurs looking more like early 2000s Spurs-Lakers rivalry. What, like Shaq, Duncan, David Robinson still in the mix, Kobe, all that. A little bit of that. Are we going to get a Derek Fisher 0.4? Is that going to happen? Knicks have shown they can beat the Spurs, though. I understand the Knicks beat them a couple times in the regular season. And look, I hope I'm wrong. I want to see an awesome NBA Finals. I do think the Knicks will get past the Cavs. The Cavs can put up a fight for sure. And they may win out, or they may find a way through, but I think the Knicks get through. And if the Spurs get through, I hope we get an exciting NBA Finals. I hope the Knicks can make it a close one. But I'm not taking what the Knicks did in the regular season as proof that they can deal with what San Antonio is doing right now. And again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong and we get an awesome NBA Finals. I hope that what we're seeing, because I've seen this idea floating out there, I hope that what we're seeing is that part of this is the Spurs are to the Thunder what Minnesota is to Denver. I hope that's part of the equation here, that the Spurs are constructed to hurt OKC in the ways that they can be hurt, and they are the kryptonite to that team. And that's what we're seeing right now. And in a different matchup, they may not look quite as good. Minnesota gets up to play Denver the way that they do. That's an exciting matchup, and they seem to be the kryptonite to the Denver Nuggets. I don't buy that much. I don't think that's the case, but I hope that's it. I hope that if the Knicks do get through, whether it's against OKC or against San Antonio, they could put up a fight. I'll tell you this. I'm going to be, whether it's the Cavs or the Knicks, I'm going to be rooting for the Eastern Conference team. Whether it's the Thunder or the Spurs that make it through in the West, I'm going to be rooting for the Eastern Conference team just because it's easier to get behind the underdog and all of that. But I'll be rooting for the Eastern Conference team. I don't want the Knicks to have no shot. I don't want the Cavs to have no shot. But my brain, watching what we just watched, says they have no shot. Says they have no shot. OKC had deja vu of Wemby hitting a logo 3 when Steph Curry did the exact same thing. That's right, he did. That was an all-time moment. Cavs or Knicks are cooked if Wemby does this on them. Yeah, Wemby does this to anybody in its game. Again, the Thunder are going to look at the box score and think, oh my God, we did a lot of what we needed to do and still didn't win. We did a lot of what we needed to do and still didn't win this game. That's what the Thunder are going to think. I mean, look at this. When we look at frequency, though, San Antonio, 91st percentile in corner threes generated. That's another way that you beat OKC. Now, OKC did a nice job in their own right generating corner threes, but 91st percentile for San Antonio in corner threes generated frequency-wise. They were also in the 90th percentile, though, at the rim. That's Wemby. So essentially, and by the way, the OKC does give up a high percentage of corner threes, which is a shot most teams try to steer teams away from. But the Spurs spent the night largely getting shots at the rim and corner threes. Most teams love that shot diet. That's a good shot diet to have. Meanwhile, the Thunder, 36th percentile at the rim. They couldn't get to the rim and deal with Wemby there. And then when we get to accuracy, OKC, San Antonio didn't shoot all that well. In fact, all those corner. Imagine if San Antonio shot well from corner three, given how many they generated. That's the scary part. That's the scary part. If I'm OKC and I'm looking at this game, I'm thinking, man, this should have been a win. Looking at the way this all played out, if it wasn't for the rebounds, we win this thing. And if I'm San Antonio, I'm thinking, man, we won this thing and we can play better than that. We can play better than that. We can exploit OKC better than we just did. Wemby's only 22, not in his prime yet. League is over. Yeah, I mean, we knew it coming in, right? When Wemby came into the NBA that, oh my God, there's this dude that's 7'5" and physically does things that nobody else can do because of his size, his insanely long arms, and moves like almost like a guard or like a wing out there on the floor. That's going to be very, very difficult for anybody to deal with. As long as he's healthy and he's continuing to play at this level, it's going to be very difficult to do anything with him because you have to change your entire game. Yeah, the shots you take, the angles you attack, everything changes with him on the floor. So yeah, it's a very tough spot to be in. I'll say it again. It's going to come off like sour grapes. I thought it was a really unfortunate thing for the NBA that he wound up in the Western Conference because there's so much talent, and specifically on the Spurs, of course, but there's so much talent already in the Western Conference. They needed a guy like this in the East to balance things out a little bit, and instead it just continued to tilt the scale in the favor of the West because, man, it is a loaded conference. Yeah, what is Wemby? 7'5", 7'4", 7'5", something like that. Whatever he is, 8'11", insanely huge. Reality, THT over Caruso, another mistake by Rob. Yeah, but again, especially when one of the benefits of the Russell Westbrook trade was that they didn't have to choose. Had they done a sign and trade where they brought in DeMar DeRozan, which was in discussion, that would have hard capped them. And then they would have literally had to have made a choice between the two. But part of the benefit of trading for Russell Westbrook instead of doing a sign and trade was that it would not trigger a hard cap. And so that would allow you to keep both guys. Just all you got to do is pay for them and you keep them. No big deal. And they effectively hard capped themselves. They did it themselves. They enforced a restriction on themselves that was not being put on them by the NBA. And even if they were doing that, yes, they picked the wrong guy. Clearly, they picked the wrong guy. I keep hearing 28 teams aren't close. So what do you tell Luka? What do you mean? What do you tell Luka? You tell him the same thing that Boston is telling Jason Tatum. You tell him the same thing that Steph Curry is being told by the Warriors, the same thing that Jokic is being told, the same thing Jalen Brunson is going to be told, the same thing Giannis, wherever he winds up, is going to be told. You say, hey, we put together the best team that we can, we get to the playoffs, and we give it everything we got. So I'll tell you what, like, realistically, is anybody playing at this level right now besides these two teams? No. But are 28 teams just going to tear it down and say, well, that's it, game over? No. It's sports. You never know for sure what's going to happen. And I hate to say like the only chance is these teams get insanely injured or something, but injuries do occur. Look, the Celtics became the first team in NBA history to have a bye to the NBA Finals. They didn't even have to play a game. Obviously, not literally, I'm taking a shot at them, but every good player on the teams in front of them the year they won the title got hurt. Injuries do happen. Things do change. New players come in. Players are not static. When people say this player is trash, that may not be a thing for long. That changes. The quality of a player changes. The quality of a team changes. The quality of a coach changes. So you can't just say, well, these guys are so good right now, everybody just pack it in, tear it down, rebuild, try to accumulate as many draft picks. But first of all, you can't do it if everybody tries to sell at the same time, says we're just going to bottom out for right now. Not everybody would be able to do that. But all you can do is put together the best team that you can. Put together the best team that you can and try to counter what they're doing. See if you can find some weaknesses. Look, there was a point where Denver was going to be the team that was going to run off a bunch of years in a row. That didn't happen. Now, I think what's happening with OKC and with San Antonio is different because of how young they are and how deep they are. But we've looked in the past 7 years. It's been up. Okay, nobody's going to stop Boston now. They won once and then injuries hit. Things happen. Things happen. Where's Keith? In Florida? He's in Florida. Probably asleep right now. He texted me just a little bit ago, though. Just a little bit ago, Keith texted me. About a half hour ago. You guys want to know what Keith texted me? Keith texted me. Keith texted me. This shit is our job. What a effing life. He had such a good time watching that game. I did too. That game was awesome. The game was awesome. All right, I'm going to get into some more of your questions and comments. Let me pay a bill real quick here. You guys know Prize Picks is our channel sponsor. Super easy to play. All you got to do is pick more or less on your favorite players. And the link is in the description down below. Got a great promo. Play $5, get $50 instantly when you use the code HMA. Obviously, my picks from earlier today wouldn't have worked out because De'Aaron Fox wound up not playing. And he was a guy that I was going to lean on there. But the Wemby picks, that would have worked out really nicely. I'm looking at the Cavs and the Knicks. Jared Allen had a really strong game last game. 12.5 points. He's done it in 4 of his last 5. Yep, even against the Knicks, Mitch Robinson, Cat. That'll present some challenges, but I'm going to say Jared Allen can do it again. And then what do we want to look to on the Knicks side of things? Jalen Brunson certainly can light it up. OG Anunoby, 26.5 PRA. You know what? Let's go there. Let's take the little goblin guy. Jalen Brunson, 4.5 assists. I think you can get more than that. So I'm going to go there. $10 entry fee to win $22. Use the code HMA. Link is in the description down below. Go check out Prize Picks. Super easy to play. If you're going to play, please do so responsibly. All right. Let me get back into some of your questions, some of your comments here. Man, transition. But I can't wait till a little bit later when the players on-off numbers and everything come out in this. Look at San Antonio. The Thunder really got out in transition quite a bit, especially early on in this game. They were winning this game in fast break opportunities. San Antonio, the 82nd percentile in points per possession in transition. And then San Antonio just crushing on the glass. Man, just killed them. Harper was ready to step up when it was time, like a vet out there. Yeah. A lot of people say, oh, well, see, this is proof. All you have to do, this is why teams keep tanking, is you have to build through the draft. And this is why OKC is one of the teams that's a big proponent of ending tanking, because they don't want anybody else to catch up to them. So they got force-fed picks for years and years and years, just like the Spurs did, got force-fed picks for years and years and years. And now they don't want other people to be able to do the same thing and catch up to them. I've seen that out there. It's more than just that. It's more than just get a bunch of picks. You got to get them right. And San Antonio getting Castle, he was not the number one pick. Getting Harper, it was not the number one pick, right? Getting these are guys that have been very, very good, that stepped into big moments and were ready to play, right? We're ready to play. And that's not easy to find, especially with a guy that's not even with the number one pick. That's not easy to find. But with guys that are not number one picks, you got to get them right. I mean, hell, imagine if San Antonio got the number one pick when Zach Reese-Sachet was the top of the board. Imagine if that happened. Everything completely shifts. Some of it is luck, too, in terms of what year you get that pick. But when you get those selections, you got to get it right. Hasheem Thabeet was what, the number 2 pick one year? James Wiseman went number 2. Remember, Andrew Bogut was going to be an offensive savant that was going to come in here and do so much with his back to the basket game. And he wound up being like a defensive player that was pretty good, but he was a number 1 overall guy. It's an inexact science. So not only do you have to have the picks, but you also have to get them right. You also have to pick the right player. Look, AJ Mitchell was not great tonight, but it's been really good. And they got him in the second round. So the Spurs got a bunch of guys. They got a guy like Harper who could step up and in a big moment and give him credit for doing it. He was fantastic stepping in for De'Aaron Fox. By the way, we talked about it when that contract was signed. And you kind of knew it was just implied that he was going to get it as part of moving over from Sacramento with Clutch. And Rich Paul getting him to San Antonio. Because how many, like most guards in the NBA that were going to hit free agency, they were eyeing San Antonio. Like, hey, I want to go play with Wemby. There was a point where Trae Young was linked to San Antonio. Ultimately, it winds up being De'Aaron Fox. He gets that big deal. Are we already at a point, like way earlier than we thought, to where De'Aaron Fox's contract, the Spurs are looking at it and thinking, maybe we didn't need to do that. Maybe we didn't need to do that. Not that, look, I think he can help this team, but as much as we said, well, De'Aaron Fox can help train Dylan Harper until Dylan Harper's ready to roll, right? Dylan Harper might be ready to roll already. So now you're going to have 4 more years of De'Aaron Fox on your books, and maybe you don't really need him as much. He's 29. He's going into his age 29 season. 30, 31, 30. You're going to have 32-year-old De'Aaron Fox. And by this point in the contract, like $57 million, $61 million. And are you still starting him ahead of Harper and Castle? Probably not. Probably not. Are you running 3 guards out there? Probably not. So you're going to have $54 million, $57 million, $61 million coming off the bench. That's that. Again, the Spurs don't have a whole lot to complain about right now, but that's going to be an interesting situation to watch. That's going to be an interesting situation to watch what they do. Yeah, they've got Wemby, Harper, Castle. They're on rookie deals. I'm more talking about when it comes time to figure out who's in your starting lineup, right? And you look, Dylan Harper, his extension money isn't going to kick in until the final year of Fox's deal. Okay, so you have 1 year of overlap where they're both making big money. Steph Castle, you're going to have 2 years of overlap where they're both making big money. But those are coming. Those are coming. Wemby, he's going to get a huge extension, obviously, this summer. And then the big money's going to overlap there. So, yes, they have those guys on rookie contracts. It helps that Harper's on a rookie deal for a few more years, certainly. But it's more you're going to have a huge salary probably coming off the bench, unless they can move him. And I don't know that a team's going to want to sign up for that contract from De'Aaron Fox. Again, minor problems for San Antonio right now. Not even a big deal. They're not going to fret over it at this moment. Instead, they're just going to enjoy what they've got. Prime AD was the only one that could have matched up with Wemby. Yeah, I mean, Prime AD would have been at a huge, I mean, everybody would be at a huge size disadvantage. But in terms of, I don't think you can defend Wemby straight up with basically anybody. You're going to have to put multiple guys on him. That's just the way it's going to. And even then, like, even if you put 2 on him, he can rise up over the top and shoot over him. Spurs have almost as good assets as OKC. I'm glad SGA got exposed. The basketball gods. It was not a good SGA game. Again, you come away from this game, and maybe SGA will be great next game, but you come away from this game and you ask anybody who's the MVP, how many players do they go through before they get to SGA? Certainly Wemby, probably Alex Caruso too, at least. At least. May take a while before they get to SGA. Was not a great introduction to the West Finals for SGA in this one. That said, people said, oh, see, this was proof. Voters screwed up with the MVP. The MVP is a regular season award. What the Spurs just did was a playoff thing. So I don't think SGA getting the award was incorrect. I didn't particularly think, for example, I didn't think that Jokic should have finished ahead of Luka. Maybe I'm biased in that, but I didn't think that should have been a thing. And as good as he was tonight, I didn't think Wemby was the regular season MVP either. I thought he argued his way into it. Right now, in this game and in most of these playoffs, he's looked like the best player in the world. There's no denying that at all. But it's a regular season award. And based on what we saw in the regular season, I still think SGA was a very deserving winner. And if you gave it to any of those 4 guys, you can make a real argument for them. But I was surprised by how low Luka was. I was surprised Jokic was ahead of him. The way the votes ultimately came in, I was surprised by the way that played out. SGA is very deserving, was very deserving last year. I wouldn't take it away from him. But I think push comes to shove. If you asked any team in the NBA, you get the number 1 pick. We're going to reset every roster. Wemby is easy the number 1 pick. And it's not close. It's not close. Of course, he can't replicate 7 foot 375. He can be more forceful in the paint versus Wemby. Only way to get Wemby into foul trouble. See, I think getting Wemby into foul trouble is more about guys getting into his body off the drive. I think that's going to be the bigger thing. And the referees do give Wemby a lot of leeway. He's got that kind of defensive player of the year armor. He was grabbing Chet like crazy. That's something that I do think the Thunder will try to show to the NBA. And that's not to say the Thunder don't get away with a ton of things on their own, because they absolutely do. But and I'm sure San Antonio will complain about some of the grabbing and all that kind of stuff. But you did see moments where Wemby probably could have been called for a foul, didn't get called for a foul. That's the kind of stuff that they'll try to get on him. But again, I think in order to make it so the referees would have to call a foul on him, you got to get him off his feet. You got to get into his body on a pump fake, get into his arms, all that kind of stuff. Again, I don't want to see the foul baiting shenanigans, the flopping and stuff like that. And here's the other thing. And, I think it's in these playoffs, it's really been exposed. And maybe we're not talking about this enough, but NBA players have figured it out. NBA players have figured it out. They now know. I knew it was coming. They've figured it out. The cat's out of the bag. If you get hit in the head in any kind of way, anywhere close to it, have any kind of questionable foul, what do? Stay down. Stay down. Why? Because it triggers a review. I hate that. But it's one of the things that can trigger the reviews if there's injury on the play or probability of injury and all those sorts of things. NBA players have figured it out. It's a minor soccer-ish element. Why do guys roll around on the ground screaming and then they're fine when the play goes on? Because they're trying to get the referee to give the guy that fouled them a card, right? The World Cup is coming up. We're going to see it. We're going to see guys hurl themselves to the ground, grab their shin guard, a nice nondescript area, and roll around and scream. That's going to happen. I grew up playing soccer. I hate that shit. We're going to see that because they're trying to get their opponent a card. They have to change the way they play when you're playing on a yellow card, or even worse, if you get kicked out of a game. Now you're in a big trouble and you're playing a man down. We're starting to see NBA players. Now, you get hit, anything questionable, stay down. Stay down. You get smacked in the face, stay down. Draw attention to it. The referees will go review it. You never know. Maybe it'll be a flagrant. Maybe you'll get more for it. I think we're starting to see it. We saw it tonight. We saw enough times where somebody got hit and he went, why is he didn't get hit that hard. Like, pop back up, man. Stand down. In fact, I think it was it Dylan Harper? I forget who it was. One of the Spurs players was on the ground. Teammate went over, offered him a hand to pick him up, and he said no. And he stayed down. You're going to get the review. And the referees go over, they review it, and they look. And they're just hoping to get that flagrant foul. They figured it out. And look, there are, if you are deserving of a flagrant foul, absolutely. Get the flagrant foul, right? You should. But I think we're starting to see players who get fouled, they're being a bit dramatic in order to get the referees to go and check it for a flagrant. Stop blaming the Clippers for trading Shea to a rival and ultimately being the reason the Thunder won their championship. What do you mean? Stop blaming them. Is it being serious? What are we talking about? Like, I've talked about a lot. Stop blaming them for something they literally did. I don't understand. I don't understand. Like, stop blaming them for something that they actually did. Still blaming. Oh, still blaming. Yeah, still. I just don't. Are you saying like you are blaming them? Maybe I'm misreading this. You are blaming them. I got you. My fault. Sorry, I'm all fired up about players acting and being dramatic and all that kind of stuff. I get it. You're still blaming the Clippers. I'm with you. We're on the same side. I'm there. Sorry. Apologies. We just watched an amazing game and all of that. Anyway. Yeah. That's it. Look, I've talked about it a bunch. Like, in the moment, I understand why the Clippers did what they did. In hindsight, of course, they would never do that. We have to remember, not only did they paid the Thunder the price of two superstars in a trade, because that's what they were getting, was two superstars, but the Thunder were only giving up one. Thunder were giving up one superstar. They got paid for two because the Clippers were ultimately going to get two, because that would mean Kawhi Leonard was going to sign with them. It also meant Kawhi Leonard was not going to go to the Lakers. And that mattered a lot to the Clippers. That mattered a lot. It was not just, we need to get Kawhi. It was, we need to keep Kawhi from going to the Lakers. So making that deal, there was a lot behind it. I understand why they did it. Obviously, it has put them in this position. I mean, hell, the Thunder have a lottery pick this year because of the Clippers. They've got the 12th pick because of the Clippers. Can the Lakers get Bol and trade him up? No. Come on. Even if the Spurs lose this series, which I have Spurs in 7, free agents are going to, I think I have Thunder in 7, personally. That was my pick earlier today on Front Office anyway. If I could change it now, would I? Maybe. Yeah, I think I probably would. But my pick going in was Thunder in 7. Free agents are going to look at this young Spurs team and want to join and play with Wemby. Well, they could have the mid-level exception, and that's where I think, like, yeah, there'll be a team that's going to go after Rui, right? Of course they will, because he'd be a great fit on this team. This Spurs team's going to be scary for coming years. They will get expensive, though, just like the Thunder are going to have some difficult decisions this summer. Those contract extensions will start to kick in. Wemby's will get one to kick in next year. You know, that's the way that's going to go. So they're going to get expensive at some point. But yes, they'll have a little bit of money to spend in free agency, and there will be players who want to go play with Wemby. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. That's why there's another apron rule added. Too many small market teams piling top picks and can keep players from Stern's rules. Terrible for NBA money. Yeah, I mean, the damn small market teams. God, they're so annoying. No, I think it's funny when you got, and this is obviously incredibly biased, but when the small market teams, fans of the small market teams come out and cry foul and woe is us, we're just a poor small market. The NBA has bent over backwards to do everything they can to level the playing field, to take away any advantage that the big markets have. I mean, at this point, they're going to find some way to change the weather in Los Angeles, right? They're going to find some way to diminish the advertising dollars that come with being a New York Knick. They're going to find some way to take away South Beach. Something, right? There's going to be some inherent advantages in each market. And that's just the way that it goes. But the NBA has done a lot to level the playing field. But with every move, we talk a lot about unintended consequences. And what most of the unintended consequences over the last 5 years or so in the NBA, what it's ultimately done is it's taken a league where you build rosters through 3 different methods. You build rosters through free agency, you build rosters through trades, and you build rosters through the draft/player development, right? 3 things. And what's happened is all the rules that the NBA has put in, they have done a lot to diminish trades, not entirely, but to diminish trades, to big time diminish free agency. Nobody's hitting free agency anymore because now the extension rules are more favorable. So you don't have nearly as many guys hitting free agency because they just sign extensions. So you've diminished those 2 areas, while meanwhile supercharging the draft. The draft is now the way to build, and it's not just because of the amount of years you get to keep the player. It's because of the contract. It's because of the style of play that's being played now, the need for depth, the speed that tends to come inherent with younger players. We look at stylistically the way the game is going. It's not just the rules, but it's also the way the game is being played. It's not just the rules for roster assembly. It's not just the collective bargaining agreement, but it's the way the game's being played on the floor. Everything has tilted the roster building balance of power heavily towards the draft. And so that's if you were a team that has stockpiled picks for years now, and Sam Hinkie trusts the process, and you took that as your inspiration, right now you're sitting pretty. Because guess what? Everything has shifted power towards the draft. Everything has shifted power towards the draft. You bought Bitcoin early. You got Amazon stock on the ground floor, and now suddenly everything has moved in that direction. That's what we're seeing happen in the NBA. And so if you were one of the teams that added draft capital, boom. Now you're in a really good spot. And as a fan of a team that typically leans into trades and free agency and not so much the draft, it's a very difficult position to be in, to try to build a team in this environment where the draft has not been your thing. You missed on the last 2 picks. That's not to say they've never had good picks. They got Magic Johnson. They got James Worthy. They got obviously that Kobe guy they traded for on draft night, right? They've had a number of guys they found. Hell, they got Austin Reeves without even having to use a draft pick, right? They've found players in the draft. Even I'm trying to pick recent guys. Max Christie wound up being a good pick. They wound up using in a trade. They were able to trade Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball and get Anthony Davis, right? So they've done some good things in the draft, but generally you don't see the Lakers really lean in heavily to the draft. And again, that's why missing on their last 2 picks in Dalton Knecht and Jalen Hood-Schifino hurt so bad. Alex Caruso is a great example as well. He was a great example of player development because that's a guy that they brought up through the G League. Now, he didn't spend a lot of time with their G League. He ironically was with the Thunder's G League team and then became a Laker and became the Lakers' first 2-way player ever, ironically outdueling De'Aaron Fox in that classic Summer League where the Lakers wound up winning the Summer League title. What was that, like 2016 or something like that, 2017, when they won the Summer League title. And Alex Caruso Lonzo Ball sat out that game, and Alex Caruso had this amazing duel with De'Aaron Fox. And then Caruso got the Lakers' very first ever two-way contract. So again, that's player development. But that's the draft is the supercharged option now for roster building. It's the way it goes. Jordan Goodwin. Yep. Jordan Goodwin's another guy. Now, Jordan Goodwin bounced around a bit. Whoever picked JHS has a bad eye for talent. Yeah, that really didn't work out. Really, I mean, he's not even in the league anymore. And that was just a couple of years ago that he was drafted, and he's not even in the league. If you're good, you get re-signed unless your team has cap problems. Free agency has turned into a de facto buyout market. Yeah, I mean, it's not, I think that's overstating things a little bit because there are good players who get there, but are there stars? No, because stars get extensions, right? It's become like a status symbol. But yeah, my team's not letting me get to free agency. They're extending me. The extension rules are now more favorable. Under the older CBA, you couldn't give guys extensions the way you can right now. You couldn't give them 140% of their current salary. You couldn't give them the bump that they deserved. And so you wound up with a lot more situations where guys would say, well, no, I'm going to go to free agency. I'm not planning on going anywhere. I just know I need to go to free agency to get my money. I can't extend for the number that I should be getting. I won't get market value. Free agency is the only way to do that. And then guys would get to free agency and they go, you know what? Actually, I will look around a little bit. And then guys would sometimes change teams. That doesn't happen anymore because now guys extend because the contract extension rules are better. It's the way it goes. Because teams kept complaining, like, we don't like our guys constantly getting to free agency. We want to extend them, and we can't because it doesn't make any sense for them to do it. Financially, they're way better off getting to free agency, but we don't want to be in that spot. So teams complained. They changed it. The unintended consequence, though, is now free agency kind of sucks. It's rare that anybody really hits free agency. It's not like, oh man, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh are free agents at the same time. Or I guess LeBron and Bosh are free agents at the same time. And remember that summer it was Amari Stoudemire too, going to the Knicks, and that's going to happen. And, remember the big tours? I talked about this the other day. Remember the big free agent tours where Carmelo Anthony goes to Houston and they unfurl a banner of him and this recruiting tour and all that? Or Kawhi, people are tracking his plane from Toronto. Remember all that? That's not happening anymore because all these guys get extended. I meant for the players teams don't want. Yeah. We're at a point now where unless you are undeniably just bash you over the head, positive value contract, teams are looking at them like, hey, how short can we make this deal? How much flexibility can we build in? We can't get stuck with anybody that even looks like they might not be a positive value. Who was the last big free agent? I mean, the biggest free agent that moved last year wound up being what? Nickeil Alexander-Walker? The biggest impact piece that moved in free agency? Probably him. But the last true big free agent, this guy's now a star level free agent, was it Jalen Brunson? Maybe I'm forgetting somebody, but Jalen Brunson probably. And you had a unique, his dad was working for the Knicks. Kind of a unique situation there. Paul George, the problem is by the time Paul George moved in free agency, was he really that guy? But fair, you could throw him in there. You can throw him in there. Giannis to the Lakers is a must. What are they giving up to get him? That's the problem. And does Giannis even want to be there? Does he want to be on the West Coast? How do they get him? They have 3 first-round picks. One of those is the 25th pick in this year's draft. They have 3 first-round picks. They could try to put it together. Is that going to be enough compared to what Miami might offer? What Minnesota may offer? They're now in the mix for him. I don't know. And if Luka has already made it known to the Lakers front office that he doesn't want Austin Reeves moved in a deal for Giannis, then what what would they ever sign and trade him for? A lot of people go, oh, sign and trade Austin for this guy. If Luka has told the team, don't sign and trade Austin in a deal for Giannis, or don't trade Austin in a deal for Giannis, that's the rumor that's out there, right? If that's true, then there's nothing they're going to trade him for, right? Right or wrong. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but the team is being built through the lens of what does Luka want? What is best for Luka? If Luka is telling the Lakers, I want Austin Reeves back, he's going to be back. What can Minnesota offer? Jaden McDaniels. Now, you can say they won't, and I think you can very easily argue that they shouldn't, but Minnesota doesn't have much in the way of draft capital unless they offer to give up Jaden McDaniels. Then they could get a bunch of draft capital. If they wanted to turn him into picks, they could turn him into a bunch of picks. If they wanted to offer him to Milwaukee, that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. Again, I don't think that's what Minnesota ultimately will do. But if Minnesota realistically wants to get in on the Giannis deal, look, you're not going to trade Julius Randle for him. But if they say Jaden McDaniels, that changes quite a bit. Changes quite a bit. You can get a lot of draft capital. Now, that said, with the new rule changes coming, I think draft picks, as valuable as they already are becoming even more valuable. Donnie and I talked about that earlier today. I think draft picks are going to be even more valuable now. So then what do you do? Right now, you're in a situation where, oh man, our guy turns his ankle. We wind up with an 8% chance at the number 1 overall pick. Teams are going to be very reluctant to move draft picks. And I think if they do move draft picks, they're going to be heavily protecting them now. Because teams are going to be looking at things saying, wait. Now we've got, 16 teams in the lottery? Now, if I happen to slip to the play-in and I lose in the round, I can be the 7 seed and I lose in the first round and I advance in the second round and I'm getting a percentage chance to go get the number 1 overall pick. Yeah, I'm not giving up my number 1 pick. I also wonder, what does it mean for picks that are already traded? So, for example, like Utah had the Lakers pick for next year, top 4 protected. Now Memphis has that pick as part of the Jaren Jackson trade. Memphis has that pick now, top 4 protected. Imagine if the Lakers aren't that good next year, or let's say Luka gets a hamstring issue, whatever, LeBron leaves, and the Lakers wind up in the exact scenario I'm talking about. And Memphis traded for that pick thinking, well, there's no way in hell the Lakers are going to finish bottom 4. That's not going to happen. And then the Lakers wind up being the 8th seed when the dust settles, and they move up to like the 4th pick in the draft. And then Memphis is like, what the hell? Yeah, because the draft odds all just totally shifted. What happens to these picks that have already been traded under the old rules? And their value just changed dramatically when those things go into place. I'm curious to see how the NBA is going to approach that. And I don't think there really is going to be a solution to the problem. It's just going to be, sucks, but that's the way it is. We are dead set. And there's teams, we're dead set on eliminating tanking. And there are teams, there was the article from The Athletic today, that are looking at this saying they're going too far. They're hell-bent on getting rid of tanking, and they're going too far with this. They're fixed. And by the way, I'm telling you right now, the NBA is going to take a victory lap next year. They're going to say, look at this. Nobody's tanking. Isn't this great? But they're going to leave out the part that the 2027 draft class, not very good. So teams weren't going to tank like they were this year anyway. Doesn't matter if they change the rules or not. Next year, tanking isn't going to be nearly as big of a problem. They can leave things exactly as they are, and tanking won't be as big of a problem. This year, you've got a deep, very talented draft class. So a bunch of teams are tanking because they say, yeah, I want that. Next year, that's not the case. So guess what? Teams won't tank as much. But the NBA is going to go, hey, look at our rules. Look, nobody's tanking because of the new rules. I don't know. Is that really what did it? And I don't necessarily hate all the new rules that are coming in. I think there's some good ideas to them. I think you can wind up inadvertently, again, unintended consequences, punishing teams that are legitimately bad. But you know what? Maybe you should not get rewarded for being terrible at your job, right? Maybe you shouldn't get rewarded for that. There's that element to this too. But there are teams that, despite it sounding like everybody's on board, that article from The Athletic today, showed that there are teams that are not on board, that are going along with this, but understand that the NBA is probably overcorrecting here. And you're going to wind up with, again, unintended consequences. Loving and hating all the hot takes from the chat. LOL. Can we take a second and smash the like for Trevor for giving us a place to do that? Well, thank you. And yes, please do hit that like button. Appreciate all of you for being here. You guys are awesome. Donnie and I are so blown away. We talk about it all the time. This channel really, September will be 2 years since this channel actually really got going, got off the ground. And we are still just blown away by the support that we've gotten here, the growth that we've seen in the time that we've been doing this. We've strategically changed some things about the way we cover things, the way we go about it and everything. But yeah, we are beyond blown away and so appreciative of everything you guys have brought here. Can you do the Thunder salary and who they might lose? Yeah. So the Thunder, check this out. So OKC. Here's the problem they've got. And problem maybe going a bit too far, but they were very smart, shocker, right, in how they approached this. Look what they did with Isaiah Hartenstein. Is he worth $28.5 million? No, but that's why he's got a team option. They essentially paid him to put a team option on the end of his deal so they would have flexibility. Lou Dort, $18.2 million team option. Kenrich Williams, $7 million team option. That's gone, right? That's automatic. They're declining that, obviously. From there, though, they've got a difficult decision to make. Why? Well, because if you look at OKC, they're $28 million over the second apron already. And assuming they don't want to be a second apron team, which maybe, who knows, maybe they win the whole thing again this year and they just say, screw the aprons. We don't care. We're bringing everybody back. But they're going to have to cut some salary otherwise. Most teams, there's only one team that's above the second apron right now, and it's Cleveland. And there's a reason for that. The second apron may not be a hard cap, but teams are treating it as it is a hard cap. And it is very punitive. So teams are treating it as a hard cap. So if the Thunder fall in among the teams that do not want to deal with the second apron, the problem they have is, guess what? Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, their extensions kick in this next year. So now you've got some tough calls to make. Kenrich Williams is easy. Goodbye. Move on there, right? Then you're probably picking between Lou Dort and Isaiah Hartenstein. And even then, you're probably hoping that at least one of them, and I would lean more towards iHart than Dort, but you're hoping one of them, you'll decline the team option, and then they'll sign a long-term deal for less money. So, for example, Isaiah Hartenstein, you waive Kenrich Williams, okay, that's $7 million you just freed up. Then Isaiah Hartenstein, you look at and you say, look, iHeart, we love you. You're not worth this. We overpaid you, front loaded the contract. We're going to decline your team option and we're going to offer you, I don't know, 3 years, $50 million, 3 years, $60 million, something like that, right? We're going to offer you less money. And this is where you come back and you repay us for overpaying you when we got you from the Knicks, right? And so we're going to knock that number down. Okay, so let's say you do that. Let's say you move Isaiah Hartenstein down to $20 million a year. You do a 3-year deal, $60 million, $20 million a year. Goodbye, Kenrich Williams. Goodbye there. That's $15 million you saved. You're still over that second apron. So you still have some difficult decisions. And let's not forget, they have the 12th pick in this year's draft. So when we look at the rookie scale, the number 12 pick in the draft and what it ultimately brings with it, it's not out yet, but the number 12 pick in the 2025 season, or at least it's not on Spot Track right now, brought with him a salary year one that would be at $5.4 million. So that's another $5.4 million that's on their books for next year, assuming they keep the pick, which they may not, because frankly, they have more picks than they have roster spots available. And let's not forget, they also have the 17th pick. So let's add the 17th pick. So $5 million for the number 12 pick. Let's assume that's gone up. Let's call it $6 million. The 17 pick, $4.2 million. Let's assume that's gone up. Let's call it $5 million. All right. That's like another $10 million in salaries you got to add on with those 2 picks unless they flip those picks elsewhere. And they don't even have roster spots for all these draft picks that they've got. So that's the challenge for the Thunder. Now, what I think the Thunder will try to do is, let's say they decide we're going to move on from Lou Dort. We're just going to cut him in order to make up that difference. Could they, rather than do that, could they pick up his team option, trade him into someone's cap space, and then get some type of an asset back for him? That would be the smart way and the ideal way to play this for the Thunder, so that they get something back for setting salary by letting go of a player that I think most teams would be okay with having Lou Dort at $18 million on their books. So can they turn that into some type of an asset that they can kick the can down the road, turn it into a future pick, something like that, and then go from there? So again, they're in a difficult spot, but difficult is a relative term, right? They've got some maneuvering to do with their cap, but obviously they have a great roster. They're not going to be able to keep this team together as presently constructed unless they just don't care about the second apron. And if that's the case, then they could, but they will incur the wrath of the second apron. Assuming they do not want to do that, then they will not be able to keep together this roster as it's presently constructed. Eastern Conference Finals, looking at this, how do we counter this epic game 1, Knicks in 6? Yeah. Both the Cavs and the Knicks have got to be thinking like, well, it'd be great to make the finals at least, I guess. Yeah. And I do think the Knicks get through. I've got Knicks in 6 as well. Luka came in hurt and ended the season hurt. Trade him. What was he between them? Was he hurt? Not really. Pretty healthy between those times. But yeah, he arrived to the Lakers hurt. His last game played as a Dallas Maverick was Christmas that year. He came in hurt, dealing with the calf issue. But he debuted pretty shortly after becoming a Laker. And then he got hurt at the end of this year. I mean, he hurt his hamstring, and that ended his season. That was April 2nd. So trade him. I mean, if they decide they're not going to, obviously they're not going to, but if they did decide to do that, hopefully they'd get more than what the Dallas Mavericks got. But what are you going to trade him for? Let's just be real. They're not trading Luka. They've specifically said they're building this team around Luka. They're not going to do it. Well, are the Pistons going to overpay Duren, knowing he underperformed the entire playoffs and needs to improve the roster? Do the Lakers go after Duren? So here's the thing. When we talk about Jalen Duren, imagine if he was a Laker. Because I've got a lot of Lakers fans telling me every day, like, oh, you know, the Pistons, they may not max Duren. What if we give them a max offer? They might not match. We'll get him. Could imagine if Duren was a Laker right now and he played the way he played in the playoffs. Imagine the response from Lakers fans right now, what they'd want to pay him. You wouldn't hear any Lakers fans talking about max this guy. They'd be saying the opposite. They'd be saying, we got to get rid of this guy. No way in hell do you give this guy a max. But because he's on a different team, and maybe you could, I have Lakers fans tell me every day, we need to max Jalen Duren. This is our opportunity. I don't think the Pistons will match. He was terrible in the playoffs. He was terrible. He was great, by the way, in the regular season. And I think that's probably more indicative of what he is. And I think there's pros and cons to going after Jalen Duren. But I think what's ultimately going to happen is the Pistons are going to get him for less than a max. That's what I think will ultimately happen. Because I think the Pistons will make it clear they want to keep him. He'll understand his market value is probably not a full max right now, and they'll probably get him for a little bit less than that. That's what I think is going to happen. And the Pistons will send the signal out to everybody. We will match any offer, and that will scare away suitors. Why? Because that's typically what's happened. The Denver situation with Peyton Watson is a little bit unique because they either have to let Peyton Watson go or move guys off their roster if they want to keep Peyton Watson. So maybe that whole dynamic changes. Maybe they make a move before the draft, they clear room, and then they tell everybody we're matching anything on Peyton Watson. And that would effectively remove him from the market if they do that. People would then stay away because the Denver Nuggets would suddenly be in a strong position once again. But yeah, look, I like Jalen Duren just fine, but I think he ultimately stays with the Pistons. I just think they get him for less than max money. I don't think anybody tests that. And I don't think anybody offers him that full max deal just to get the Pistons to blink. I think ultimately, if the Pistons had to max him, they probably would, because I don't think they'd want to lose him for nothing. Realistically, it's been a long time since we've seen a restricted free agent not have their contract matched. Since we've seen an RFA get an offer from another team, period, but then also get an offer and not have it matched. I don't even remember what the last one was, but it's been a long time. Mostly, if a restricted free agent is going to move, it's going to be via sign and trade, because nobody wants to mess around with the matching rate thing. Hey, Trev, what does it mean when you say his age X season, i.e. De'Aaron Fox in his age 29 season? Is that the age they are when the season starts? It's the age they are during the bulk of the season. That's all it means. So you've got a lot of guys who their birthday would fall at some point in the season. And so, for example, like if a player's birthday is March 28th, right? And there's 2 weeks left in the regular season, and the guy turns 30 on March 28th, we're going to call that his age 29 season, because he's 29 for the bulk of the season. The next season we'll call his age 30 season. Even though we can say on April 3rd, we can say player X is 30 years old, we're not going to consider that his age for the bulk of the season. So we'll say, hey, he's going to be 29 during this season. That's all. Pacers matched on Ayton. Yep, they did. Well, the Pacers got a contract with Ayton, and then the Suns matched. But yes, and they matched like immediately. Bogey to the Clippers. Yeah, that was kind of a weird situation too. They should make the team make a decision on restricted free agents quickly. With the cap the way it is, restricted free agency needs to change. You know, it is faster. It used to be, I believe it used to be 3 days. Now it's 24 hours. 24 hours. Now, teams have pulled shenanigans in the past, like once the contract is signed, they just make it so they can't have the contract delivered to them. So they say, oh, we never got it, so the clock didn't start ticking. But the problem isn't so much that it's 24 hours. The problem is the way that the moratorium works. So free agency really kicks off June 30th, right? And you're going to hear on June 30th, like, this dude is signing with this team. LeBron James is signing with the Lakers, right? You find that out on June 30th, whatever it is, whatever player name you want to put in there. June 30th, the buzzer sounds, boom, free agency starts. Shams Charania breaking. Player X is signing with the Orlando Magic, right? Does that mean the deal is done? Nope. Because the guy can't physically sign the contract until July 6th. That's when the moratorium lifts and the league year has officially, everything is set in, all the numbers are in place, all of that. The league year changes July 1st, but it's not until July 6th that the NBA has crunched all the numbers and gone through everything, and then players can actually sign their contracts. So that's really the problem with the restricted free agency they've got right now. And teams stay away from RFAs even after this date. But if it's a highly sought after player, like a Walker Kessler, a Peyton Watson, or any of these guys, Jalen Duren, you sign the guy July 30th, you come to a verbal agreement, I should say, June 30th. You can't put pen to paper until July 6th. You've spent, let's say you tell Jalen Duren, we're going to max you $41.5 million first year. Okay. From June 30th to July 7th, really, you have to have that $41 million in cap space available, which means you can't spend it on anybody else. July 6th, he puts pen to paper. Contract gets delivered to, in this case, the Detroit Pistons. And the Pistons then wait the full 24 hours. And July 7th, the Pistons tell you, okay, 23 hours have passed and we're going to match. We'll match the offer and we're keeping the player. Oh, okay. Well, now you can go spend that $41.5 million that you had set aside for Jalen Duren, but oh, guess what? All the other free agents are off the board. So it's only a 24-hour window to match. But when you add in the moratorium, it's a week. And that's just too long. That's just too long. And that's why RFAs often sit out there. But also teams don't want to wait and sit out free agency waiting for the moratorium to end. So even if they say, well, just don't give an offer to an RFA, wait until the moratorium ends, and then it's a true 24 hours, well, then you're watching other free agents come off the board. And then you're still in a situation where if the incumbent team matches, you give the contract on July 7th, they have till July 8th to sign it, they match it, and then July 8th, you go, well, damn, everybody else came off the board on July 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Now what do we do? That's the spot that no team wants to be in. Can players back out? Yes. Yeah, players can back out. Now, it's rare, but it does happen. Marcus Morris did it with the Spurs, went to the Knicks. DeAndre Jordan, oh, the NBA was fun back then, everybody. DeAndre Jordan agreed to join the Mavs, and then the Clippers. Like, the reporting got crazy on it. They barricaded him in his house, and they went and met with him and convinced him to stay. And Mark Cuban was driving around Dallas searching for DeAndre Jordan, and all this stuff was happening. Anyway, he backed out of the deal. It is rare because players don't want to do that to a team, but it can happen because it's a verbal agreement. Nothing is set in stone, but typically teams want to take the player at their word. Teams will then make other roster moves based on that and based on that deal being effectively in place. And so it doesn't happen often, but yes, it can happen that players can back out of a deal that's signed or that's agreed to. I keep saying signed, but that's agreed to during the moratorium period. Did Boozer do that to Cleveland? Boozer with Cleveland was they declined, I believe it was his team option. And they had an option year on him. And I don't remember I don't want to misspeak here, but they're effectively the Cavs declined their option on him, thinking we're coming to terms on a new deal. We're going to, instead of allowing this guy to hit free agency next year, we're going to reward him for playing so well, and we're going to lock him up right now. And then the Jazz were like, hey, you're a free agent, right? Hey, here's a big offer that's more than they're offering. And then Carlos Boozer went, I know I told those guys I'm good to do a long-term deal, but these guys are offering more, so see you later. Thanks for making me a free agent. Didn't Tim Duncan almost go to Orlando during free agency? Yeah, that was reportedly a thing. Remember, it was supposed to be Grant Hill and Tim Duncan going to Orlando, and then it wound up being just Grant Hill. Grant Hill, man, if that guy hadn't gotten hurt, he was insane. I mean, just next level. If Orlando had gotten Grant Hill and Tim Duncan, they probably got titles. Like, that would have been nuts. But that Orlando was very close, I think, to landing Tim Duncan. Do I think Boozer will be taking number 2 because dad works with the team? We've heard otherwise that's not what the Jazz would do. They're not going to take a guy just because his dad played for the Jazz and now works for the team. I would imagine if they move back a spot, maybe they do, then they would take him. But I don't think they're going to take a player. If they believe a player's on their board and is just trying to be unbiased, they think Darren Peterson is ahead of Boozer, they're going to take Darren Peterson. They're not going to mess around, especially with a top pick like that. You can't take the wrong guy just because the dad works for your team. Can't do it. Yeah, a lot of hype on Caleb. He could go 4th. Do I think the Lakers care about the moratorium since there aren't good free agents anyway? Yeah, I do. Because there's going to be guys they're going to try. There's business they'll try to execute. There's guys they'll try to sign. Most teams do, and most teams don't want to. Most teams don't want to deal with the hassle of restricted free agency because there's 2 problems. the team matches and you effectively just did all the work for them, right? You wrote the contract for them. And then all they have to do is say, cool, we'll match it. But also, if they don't match, then you're effectively you've signed a player to a contract that's a negative value deal, right? Because if it's a positive value deal, even if the team didn't really want the player, unless they're in a unique cap situation like the Denver Nuggets are right now, if it's a positive value deal, just match it and then trade the player later. If it's a positive value deal, you inherently have to overpay to get a restricted free agent. And in today's, back when RFAs first came around, like that made some sense. Right now, nobody wants to overpay anybody. A player who is overpaid on their contract is toxic. You can't have that. So by nature, restricted free agency, trying to get a player away from an incumbent team is very, very difficult to do because nobody wants to overpay a player and have them be a negative value. That has to be the evaluation of the incumbent team, that if we match this contract, it's going to be a negative value deal. And nobody wants negative value deals right now. Moratorium period shouldn't be a week long. That needs to change. I agree. It's just the way it's been. It takes some time to reset everything around the league. Obviously, we want Bron to stay with the Lakers. If players X, Y, and Z are not incoming, no reason for Bron to take a pay cut. Do you think LeBron would A, still take a pay cut, or B, ask $50 million, C, go to another team? I think it would be either B or C. I mean, we saw it in the past, right? What was it, last year before? That he said, look, I'll take a pay cut to save you guys from the second apron a little bit, but I'll take an even bigger pay cut if you can get me Klay Thompson, if you can get me James Harden. And they couldn't. They couldn't get those guys with the money they had available. And I had it characterized it to me as like the Lakers got sent on a fool's errand. Like it was a no lose for LeBron that got out there, right? It was a no lose because either the Lakers are going to get a player that he really wants to play with, or he's going to come out looking great. Like, what a great gesture by LeBron to offer to take less money. And the Lakers couldn't do anything with it. How stupid are they, right? No matter what, LeBron's coming out in the positive. He's going to look so gracious and so giving and generous, or he's going to get a guy he really wants to play with. Right? There was no lose for LeBron. So I've had that characterized to me as like that was kind of a fool's errand that LeBron sent the Lakers on, knowing he was either way, he was going to get good PR out of it. Something positive was going to happen for him. Nonetheless, you're offering to take less. Fantastic, right? But what happened? They weren't able to get those guys. So LeBron just said, all right, give me everything you got then. I'll take a little bit less, a few million. But since you weren't able to get Klay Thompson, you weren't able to get James Harden, okay, I'll take all the other stuff. So I think that's what would happen. The Lakers, and that's not wrong. If you say LeBron's going to get $20 million, he's worth more than that. There's no question he's worth more than that. But in order for the Lakers to make significant additions, they're probably going to need him to take a big pay cut. But if I'm LeBron and the Lakers are coming to me saying, take a pay cut, I'm going to say, for what? If I take a pay cut, if I play for 20 million, if I play for 30 million, if I play for 15 million, whatever the number is, doesn't matter. Whatever the number is, why? How does that help me? The Lakers are going to have to come with him and say, if you play for X, we have lined up this guy and that guy are joining the team. And then you put the ball in LeBron's court and you say, so that's where we're at. We can put this kind of, and if LeBron says, no, I want 50 million or whatever, then the Lakers have to decide, what do you want to do? So I think if there are not guys to spend the money on that will make the team any better, then no, LeBron's not going to take a pay cut. Why should he? If they're not going to do anything useful with the money anyway, there's no reason to. Take the money or go somewhere else. The job of the Lakers is to present a scenario to LeBron where he looks at it and says, yeah, that is worth taking a pay cut for. That's the job of the Lakers. Okay, everybody. I didn't even realize it. It's been an hour and a half. What an amazing game. What an incredible double OT victory for San Antonio. I think we are in store for an amazing series in the Western Conference Finals, aka the NBA Finals, because let's be real, that's probably what it is. But I appreciate all of you for joining. Please make sure you do hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll have more stuff out tomorrow. This is a super busy time of year in the NBA. It's only going to get even more so when we get into June, we get into the draft. All the rumors really pick up even further. In July, free agency is going to be going off. All of that to say, stick around. All kinds of new stuff coming. Thank you, everybody. Till next time. See ya. And stay safe. Sorry, Keon. So if Braun asks 50 and front office says yes, who are we losing? Rui, Smart, Kennard, probably two of those three. Depending on what else you do. Maybe there's other stuff you can do. Longer conversation, but all right, everybody. See ya. Stay safe.